Alright, I'm playing Dark Souls 3. The only other Souls game I've played is Dark Souls 1, and that's possibly the best game I've played. And that's because I haven't played any of the other FromSoft games. I heard this has the best boss fight, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, looks like there's a terms and service first. Terms and conditions. Important, read carefully. This end-user license agreement, this EULA, may be updated from time to time. Your continued use of the game, as defined below, after a revised version has been communicated to you, constitutes acceptance by you of its terms. The game is licensed to you on these terms set forth in this EULA, which constitutes a legal agreement between you and Bandai Namco Entertainment America Inc. BNE. By accessing, playing, installing, or otherwise using the game in any way, you are to be legally bound by the terms of this EULA with BNE. Your use of the game is also subject to the terms and conditions set forth in this SteamTum subscriber agreement and or any other terms set forth by Valve Corporation in relation to the Steam service. This EULA contains, among other things, an arbitration provision containing a class action waiver. If you live outside of the United States of America, some or all of the arbitration provisions may not apply to you. The Dark Souls TUM video game, including without limitation any multiplayer online or downloadable portions thereof, and any related written or electronic documentation or content, the game is protected by domestic and foreign copyright laws, as well as international copyright treaties and conventions and other laws. The game is licensed and not sold, and this EULA confers no title or ownership to the game or any copy thereof. In addition to the terms and conditions hereof, when accessing and using particular portions of the game, including without limitation any multiplayer online or downloadable content, you may be subject to additional guidelines of third-party service providers. 1. Preconditions of the license. It says, the licenses granted in this EULA are specifically conditioned upon the following, and your full compliance with all other terms and conditions set forth in this EULA. You have reached age of majority in your jurisdiction. If you are under the age of majority in your jurisdiction, your legal representative, E.G. a parent or a person who has parental authority, must agree on your behalf to comply and take full responsibility for your compliance with this EULA prior to your use of the game. You agree to and comply with all of the terms in this EULA and any additional terms as may be applicable to the game, which acceptance is evidenced by your access to and use of the game. You access and use the game only on local machines running validly licensed copies of operating systems on which the game is designed to operate and which meet the minimum requirements set by the BNE, collectively the hardware. You do not use any hacks, cracks, bots, or third-party software, third-party games that may modify or copy temporarily or permanently the code or user experience of the game, whether on your local machine or servers that enable any features of the game. 2. Limited use license. Subject to the terms of this EULA, BNE grants you non-exclusive, non-transferable, revocable, limited right and license to access and use one copy of the game solely for your personal use with the hardware. Commercial use of the game is prohibited. To access the game, you must have legally obtained the game from BNE and all hardware and all third-party products and services required to operate the game and or access any online multiplayer or downloadable portion of the game BNE does not provide. You are responsible for paying all fees, taxes, and any other costs which may incur to access the game, including but not limited to costs for hardware, internet service, or third-party products and services required to access any multiplayer, online, or downloadable portions of the game. Neither this EULA nor your access to or use of the game entitles you to any future releases of the game or any expansion, sequels, or similar ancillary products. You have no interest, monetary or otherwise, in any feature or content contained in or related to the game. 3. Virtual items. 3.1. BNE may offer you the ability to earn a limited license to virtual goods and services made available by BNE, the game collectively. Virtual items. If BNE offers the ability to earn such licenses, BNE hereby grants you a non-exclusive, non-transferable, revocable, limited right and license to such virtual items as applicable for your personal, non-commercial use exclusively in the game, subject to the terms of this EULA and your compliance therewith. 3.2. You may only use the virtual items in the game and are not redeemable for money or monetary value for the Beni or any other person entity except as otherwise required by applicable law. Virtual items do not have equivalent value in real currency and cannot act as a substitute for real currency. Neither Beni nor any other person entity has an obligation to exchange virtual items for anything of value, including but not limited to real currency. You acknowledge and agree that the Beni may encourage inactions that may impact the perceived value of virtual items at any time, except as prohibited by applicable law. 3.3. Except as otherwise prohibited by applicable law, Beni, in its sole discretion, has the absolute right to manage, modify, suspend, or limitate virtual items without notice or liability to you. 3.4. You may not transfer, sell, gift, exchange, trade, lease, sublicense, or rent virtual items except in the game and as expressly permitted by Beni, except as otherwise prohibited by applicable law. Beni reserves and retains all rights, title, and interest in and to the virtual items. 3.5. The licenses granted hereunder to virtual items will terminate upon termination of this EULA and as otherwise provided herein. Provided, however, that in Beni's sole discretion, Beni may make your virtual items available to you in your account solely for use in commercial versions of the game. 4. Ownership or intellectual property rights in and to the game, including but not limited to video, audio, and other content incorporated therein or later downloaded, and titled to any and all copies thereof, are owned by Beni or its licenses, and you receive no right or interest therein except for the limited licenses expressly provided herein. 4.1. You may not do any of the following: copy the game except for a single backup copy, sell, rent, lease, license, distribute, or otherwise transfer or make the game available to any other person in whole or in part, or use the game or any part thereof in any commercial context, including but not limited to on a commercial website or in a service bureau, cyber cafe, computer gaming center, or any other commercial location in which a user may access, view, or use the game or the game's elements who has not purchased or authorized by Beni. Reverse engineer, derive, source code, modify, decompile, disassemble, or create derivative works in the game or any other online portion thereof in whole or in part. Remove, disable, or circumvent any proprietary notices or labels contained or on or in the game or any online portion thereof. Or export or re-export the game or any copy or adaptation, directly or indirectly, in violation of US laws, in violation or of any applicable export restrictions or any other laws or regulations. 5. Security measures or protection. 5. Security measures, protections! I did that wrong accidentally. Certain security measures may be required in order for you to make full use of the game, including without limitation the requirement to register the game with a serial code, the requirement to have continuous access to internet, and or the acceptance of security digital rights management features. Failure to accept these security measures may partially or completely impair your use of the game. 6. User-generated content! In exchange for access and use of the game to the extent that you create content through access to and use of the game, user-generated content, you hereby grant Beni an exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, royalty-free, fully transferable and sub-licensable worldwide right and license to the user-generated content in any way and for any purpose in connection with the game and related goods and services, including the rights to reproduce, copy, adapt, modify, perform, create derivative works from, display, publish, broadcast, transmit, or otherwise use, distribute, exploit, and communicate to the public by any and all means, and media, whether now known or hereafter derived, without any further notice or compensation of any kind to you for the whole duration of the protection granted to intellectual property rights by applicable laws, international conventions, to the extent permitted by applicable law. You hereby waive any moral rights of paternity, publication, reputation, or attribution with respect to the news and other players, the use and enjoyment of such assets in connection with the game and related goods and services under applicable law. The license granted to Beni and the above waiver of applicable moral rights shall survive any termination of this EULA. Online conduct. 7.1. Beni does not pre-screen content or posting or online chats in the game and does not assume any responsibility or liability for users-generated content. Beni does not assume any liability for any failure to remove or any delay in removing user-generated content. Without limiting any of its other rights and remedies under this EULA or applicable law, if Beni objects to any user-generated content for any reason, Beni in its sole discretion may, either itself or, if applicable, by request of a third-party service provider, A. Remove user-generated content, B. Give warnings to applicable persons, and or C. Restrict, suspend, or terminate access to and use of the game without notice or liability. 7.2. You agree that you will be personally responsible for your access and use of the game, and for all of your communication and activity in connection with the game, including any user-generated content. 7.3. In connection to your communication and activity with the game, you agree not to harass, threaten, embarrass, or do anything else to another user of the game that is unwanted, as determined by Beni in its sole discretion. Transmit or facilitate distribution of content that is harmful, abusive, racially or ethnically offensive, vulgar, sexually explicit, defamatory, infringing, invasive of personal privacy or publicity rights, or objectionable, as determined by Beni in its sole discretion. Hate speech is not tolerated. Violate any terms or policies communicated from Beni from time to time. Promote or encourage any illegal activity, including hacking. Disclose your own or other users' personal information to third parties. Impersonate any person or entity, including Beni officials, forum leaders, guides, hosts, employees, or agents, or falsely state or otherwise misrepresent your affiliation with a person or entity. Impede or disrupt the game, or the normal flow of the game, play or dialogue, or use vulgar language, abusiveness, excessive shouting, e.g. all caps, spamming, or any other disruptive or detrimental method in attempt to disturb or other users of the game. Cheat or utilize unauthorized exploits in connection with the game. Use or exploit any bugs, errors, or design flaws to obtain unauthorized access to or use the game or to gain an unfair advantage over the other players of the game. Violate any applicable laws, including but not limited to posting, transmitting, promoting, or distributing content that violates any applicable law or regulation. Violate any rules for use of third-party technology and content, rules of interactive service providers, and federal, state, local, and foreign laws where applicable. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Do anything that interferes with the ability of other users to enjoy playing the game in accordance with its rules, or that materially increase the expense or difficulty of Beni or the third-party service provider, if applicable, in maintaining the game for the enjoyment of all its users. Intentionally disconnect from the network during online play, or allow yourself to be defeated by a given player repeatedly to help boost their rankings or win count in the game. 8. Limitation damages. 8.1. To the maximum extent permitted by applicable law, in no event shall Beni, its suppliers, its licensors, or their respective directors, officers, employees, contractors, or agents be liable for any special, incidental, indirect, exemplary, punitive, or consequential damages whatsoever arising out of the possession of access to or use of or inability to use the game, or the failure to provide the support services, even if a party has been advised of the possibility of such damages. This limitation will apply regardless of the theory of liability, whether fraud, misrepresentation, breach of contract, negligence, personal injury, product liability, intellectual property infringement, or any other theory in any case, and except as otherwise required by applicable law, Beni, its licensors, and suppliers' entire liability for any and all damages under the EULA shall be limited to the amount actually paid by you for the game. 8.2. Beni and its suppliers and licensors make no promise or warranty that the game will work properly. You acknowledge and agree that Beni and its licensors and suppliers are not responsible or liable for any viruses or other disabling features that affect your access to or use use of the game. Any incompatibility among the game, other services and hardware, or C, any delays or failures you may experience in initiating, conducting, or completing any transmissions or transaction in connection with the game in an accurate or timely manner. The game and all other services are provided as is, except as might be described herein. Beni and its licensors and suppliers expressly disclaim all warranties or conditions of any kind express, implied, or statutory, including without limitation the implied warranties of title, non-infringement, merchantability, and fitness for a particular purpose. Beni does not ensure continuous error-free, secure, or virus-free operations of any online multiplayer or downloadable portions of the game, or continued operational availability of any Beni server. Some countries or regions do not allow limitations as to how long an implied warranty lasts and/or exclusions or limitations of consequential damages, so the above limitations and/or exclusions of liability may not apply to you. The warranty gives you specific legal rights, and you may also have other legal rights that vary from country to region to country to region. 8.3. Beni is not liable for any delay or failure to perform resulting from the causes beyond its reasonable control. Further, Beni cannot and does not provide or ensure that you will be able to access the online multiplayer or downloadable portion of the game whenever you want. And there may be extended periods of time where you cannot access such portions of the game. 9. Termination/suspension. 9.1. The EULA is effective upon your agreement to be bound by its terms and remains in effect until terminated by you or Beni. You may terminate the EULA at any time by deleting and destroying any and all copies of the game in your possession, custody, or control. 9.2. Except as otherwise prohibited by applicable law, Beni may limit, suspend, or terminate the licenses granted hereunder and your access and use of the game, including but not limited to virtual items and any related services and products at any time and for any reason without notice or liability to you. 9.3. Without limiting any other rights of Beni, if you fail to comply with the terms and conditions of this EULA, Beni retains the right in its sole discretion to immediately limit, suspend, or terminate your access to and or use of the account. 9.4. Upon termination of this EULA, your rights to access and use the game, including any licenses and access to virtual items, user data, points, character progress, and any other information of any kind related to the game, will terminate immediately, and you must cease all use of the game. In the event that the game is terminated, you must destroy all copies of the game and all of its component parts. 9.5. The termination of the EULA will not affect Beni's rights or your obligations arising from this EULA. Those terms that are by their nature intended to survive this EULA shall survive this EULA. 10. Privacy! Beni respects your privacy rights and personal information supplied to you by Beni or online or via any Beni-controlled website will be subject to privacy notice at http bandynamcoent.com company privacy UCHTML, notwithstanding what is stated in applicable privacy policy. If you use any online services such as online play or the downloading and uploading of content, Beni may also collect, use, store, transmit, and publicly display statistical data regarding gameplay, including ID, play log, play data, level item, specifications of local machines and residence regions, or identify content that is created and shared by you with other players. 11. US government restricted rights. This game has been developed entirely at private expense and is provided as a commercial computer game or restricted computer game. Use, duplication, or disclosure by the US government or US government subcontractor is subject to restrictions set forth in subparagraph C1II of the Rights in Technical Data and Computer Game Clauses, the FARS 252.227-7013, or set forth in subparagraphs C1 and 2 of the Commercial Computer Game Restricted Rights Clause at FAR 52.227-19 as applicable. The contractor manufacturer is Bandai Namco Entertainment Inc. 4-5-15 Higashi Shinagawa-ku, Tokyo 140-8590. The developer is From Software Inc. G minus place Sasuka 2 minus 26 minus 2 Sasuka Shibuya minus Ku Tokyo 151 minus 0,073. 12. Injunction! Because Beni would be irreparably damaged if the terms of this EULA were not specifically enforced, you agree that Beni and all its licenses suppliers shall be entitled without bond or any other security or proof of damage to appropriate equitable remedies with respect to breaches of this EULA, in addition to such other remedies as Beni may otherwise have under applicable law. 13. Indemnity! You agree to indemnify, defend, and hold harmless Beni, its licenses, its suppliers, and each of their respective officers, directors, employees, and agents from all damages, losses, and expenses, including reasonable attorney fees arising directly from or indirectly from violation of this EULA by you or your acts and omissions to act using this game. Beni reserves the right to assume the exclusive defence and control of any matter subject to indemnification by you. 14. Dispute resolution, binding arbitrations, class action waiver. 14.1. You and Beni agree to resolve all disputes and claims between you and Beni in individual binding arbitration that includes but is not limited to any claims arising out of or relating to any sub-aspect of the relationship between you and Beni, B. this EULA, or C. your access to and use of the game. It applies regardless of whether such claims are based in contract, tort, statute, fraud, unfair competition, misrepresentation, or any other legal theory. 14.2. However, this section does not apply to following types of claims or disputes which your Beni may bring in any court of jurisdiction. Claims of infringement or any other misuse of intellectual property, including such claims seeking injunctive relief, and claims relating to or arising from any alleged unauthorized use, piracy, or theft. 14.3. This section does not prevent you from bringing your dispute to the attention of any federal, state, or local government agencies that can, if the law allows, seek relief from Beni for you. 14.4. An arbitration is proceeding before a neutral arbiter instead of a judge or jury. Arbitration is less formal than a lawsuit in court and provides more limited scope. It provides different rules than court proceedings and is subject to very limited review by court. The arbitrator will issue a written decision and provide a statement of reasons if requested by either party. You understand that you and Beni are giving up the right to sue in court and have a trial before a judge or jury. 14.5. You and Beni agree to make responsible good faith efforts to informally resolve any dispute before initiating arbitration. A party who intends to seek arbitration must first send the other a written notice that describes the nature and basis of the claim or dispute and set forth the relief sought. If you and Beni do not reach an agreement to resolve the claim or dispute within 30 days after the notice is received, you or Beni may commence an arbitration. Written notice to Beni must be sent via postal mail to Acton Legal and Business Affairs Department, Bandai Namco Entertainment Inc., 2051 Mission College Boulevard, Santa Clara, California, 95054, USA. 14.4. 6. The Federal Arbitration Act applies to this section. The arbitration will be governed by the Commercial Arbitration Rules of American Arbitration Association. And where applicable, the supplementary procedures for consumer-related products, both of which are available at http://adu.org. The arbitrator is bound by the terms of this EULA. The will administer the arbitration. It will be conducted through the submission of documents by phone or in person in the country, region where you live, or at another mutually agreed location. If you seek $10,000 or less, Beni agrees to reimburse your filing fee and your share of the arbitration costs, including your share of arbitrator compensation, at the conclusion of proceeding unless the arbitrator determines that your claims are frivolous or costs are unreasonable as determined by the arbitrator. Beni agrees not to seek its attorney's fees or costs in arbitration unless the arbitrator determines that your claims are frivolous or costs are unreasonable as determined by the arbitrator. If you seek more than $10,000 in the arbitration costs, including arbitrator compensation, will split between you and Beni according to the commercial arbitration rules and the supplementary procedures for consumer-related disputes if applicable. You and Beni agree not to participate in a class or representative action, private attorney, general action, or collective arbitration, even if procedures or rules would otherwise allow one. The arbitrator may award relief only in favor of individual parties seeking relief, and only to the extent of that party's individual claim. My throat is starting to hurt. You and Beni also agree not to seek combine any action or arbitration with any other action or arbitration without the consent of all parties in this EULA and all other actions or arbitration. 14.10. If the agreement in this section not to bring out or participate in the class or representative action, private attorney, general action, or collective arbitration should be found illegal or unenforceable, you and Beni agree that it shall not be severable, that this entire section shall be unenforceable, and any claim or dispute will be resolved in court and not collective arbitration. 14.11. Notwithstanding this section, you have the right to litigate any dispute in the small claims court. If all the requirements of the small claims court, including any limitations on jurisdiction and the amount at issue in the dispute, are satisfied. 14.12. This section shall apply to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law if the laws of your jurisdiction prohibit the application of some or all of the provisions in this section, notwithstanding Section 16, Governing Law. Such provisions will not apply to you. 15. Governing Law! Any dispute not subject to arbitration or where no election to arbitrate has been made will be decided by the state or federal court located in Santa Clara County, California, and you and Beni agree to submit to personal jurisdiction of that court, except as otherwise set forth herein. This EULA shall be governed by and will be constructed under the laws of California and the United States of America without regard to choice of law or conflict of laws and principles. The Convention on Contracts, the international sale of goods, is expressly disclaimed. 16. Miscellaneous! If any provision of this EULA is held to be invalid or unenforceable, such provisions shall be struck and the remaining provisions will remain in effect and be enforced as if the invalid or unenforceable provision were not contained in this EULA. Beni's failure to act with or in respect to a breach by you or others does not waive its right to act with respect to subsequent or similar breaches. You may assign or transfer this EULA or your rights, and any attempt to you may not assign or transfer this EULA to your rights, and any attempt to the contrary is void. This EULA sets forth the entire understanding and agreement between Beni and you with respect to the subject matter. If you have any questions concerning this EULA, you may contact Bandai Namco Entertainment America Inc.'s customer service at bandainamcoent.com/company/support.uchtml or at Bandai Namco Entertainment America Inc. 2051 Mission Ward College Boulevard, Santa Clara, California, 95054 USA. Bandai Namco Entertainment Europe Dark Souls TUM 3. End user license agreement EULA. Important! Read carefully! This end user license agreement EULA may be updated from time to time. Your continued use of this software after a revised version has been posted or communicated to you constitutes acceptance by you of its terms. The Bandai Namco Entertainment video game you are currently using, which includes computer game media and related documents in printed or electronic form, is licensed to you on the terms set forth below, which constitute legal agreement between you and Bandai Namco Entertainment Europe. B'nai, by playing the video game either on your home console or online and or installing or otherwise using the game program, you agree to be legally bound by the terms of this agreement with B'nai. The Dark Souls I version, including without limitation any multiplayer, online, or downloadable portions thereof, the game is protected by the copyright laws of France, international copyright treaties, and conventions and other laws. The game is licensed and not sold, and this agreement confers no title or ownership to the game program or any copy thereof. In addition to the terms and conditions hereof, when using particular portions of the game, including without limitation any multiplayer, online, or downloadable content, you may be subject to additional guidelines of third-party service providers. 1. Preconditions of the license. The grant of license is set forth in Section 2 below is specifically conditions upon the following. You have accepted all the terms in this EULA and any additional terms as may be applicable to the game you are playing, which is evidenced by your use of the game. B. You have accepted all terms stipulated by Steam, which is evidenced by your use of the game. You will comply with all of the terms in this EULA until such time you have completed and permanently terminated your use of the game by deleting all aspects of the game on your machine. E.G. Without deletion of game-related files, destruction of the physical media on which the copy of the game in your possession exists. D. You will use the game only on a single home video game entertainment system running validly licensed copies of the operating system on which the game is designed to operate it, the hardware. And E. You will refrain from using any hacks, cracks, bots, or third-party game which may modify temporarily or permanently the code or the game user experience of the game, whether on your local machine or in servers which enable use of any features of the game. 2. Limited use license. Beneath grants you the non-exclusive, non-transferable, revocable limited right and license to use one copy of the game solely for your personal use with the hardware. Commercial use of the game is prohibited. To play the game and or access any online content related to the game, you must have legally obtained the game from Beneath and all applicable or required hardware and or third-party game to operate your game and or access any online, multiplayer, or download portion of the game which we do not provide. You are responsible for paying all fees and taxes for any hardware and other costs you may occur to access the game, including internet service or any other third-party charges required to access any multiplayer, online, or downloadable portions of the game, if applicable. Neither this agreement nor the game entitles you to any future releases of the game or to any expansions, sequels, or similar or ancillary products. Beneath may, in its sole discretion, change, modify, suspend, or discontinue the game or any aspect of the game at any time. Beneath may also impose limits on certain features or restrict your access to parts or all of the game without notice or liability. You have no interest, monetary or otherwise, in any feature or content contained in the game. You understand that the game is provided by Beneath at its discretion and may be terminated or otherwise discontinued by Beneath at any time without notice. 3. Ownership. All intellectual properties rights in and to the game, including but not limited to audio and other content incorporated therein or later downloaded and titled to any and all copies thereof, are owned by Beneath or its licensors, and you receive no right or interest therein other than the limited license of Section 2 hereof. You may not do any of the following: copy the game except for a single backup copy, sell, rent, lease, license, distribute, or otherwise transfer or make the game available to any other person in whole or in part, or use the game or any part thereof in a commercial content, including but not limited to commercial websites or use in a service bureau, cyber cafe, computer gaming center, or any other commercial location in which multiple users who have not each separately purchased the game may access the game program. Beneath may offer a separate site license agreement to permit you to make the game available for commercial use. See contract information below. Reverse engineer derived source code modify, decompile, disassemble, or create derivative works of the game or any online portion thereof, in whole or in part, remove, disable, or circumvent any proprietary notices or labels contained on or within the game or any online portion thereof, export or re-export the game or any copy or adaptation in violation of applicable EU export restrictions or other laws or regulations. 4. Security measures protections. Certain security measures may be required in order for you to make full use of the game, including, without limitation, the requirement to register the game with serial code, the requirement to have continual access to internet, and or the acceptance of security digital right management features. Failure to accept security in Failure to accept the security measures may partially or completely impair your use of the game. 5. Online conduct. 5.1. Beneath does not pre-screen content that may be posted on online chats and does not assume any responsibility for liability for content that is generated by users in connection with the game. Beneath does not assume any liability for failure to remove or delay in removing content. However, we reserve the right to remove or request that the third-party service provider remove content that is objectionable to us for any reason. This determination is in our sole discretion and is final. If Beni objects to content that you have created, Beni may, in its sole discretion, either itself or, if applicable by request, to third-party service provider, I remove content, I give warnings, I restrict your access when you break the rules or code, or if suspend or terminate your use without any notice to you. In addition, Beni may, in its sole discretion, terminate this agreement in part immediately and without notice if your online conduct breaches this agreement or infringes any third-party intellectual property rights, or if we are unable to verify or authenticate any information you provide to us. If we terminate this agreement under these circumstances, you will lose access to any online portion of the game. 5.2. You agree that you will be personally responsible for your use of the game and for all of your communication and activity in connection with the game, including any content you contribute, and that you will indemnify and hold harmless Beni, its licenses, and each of their respective parents, affiliates, and subsidiary companies in the employers, officers, and directors of each, any liability or damages arising from your conduct in connection with the game. 5.3. Beni retains the right to suspend your access to the game without previous notification. If you violate the terms of this EULA, you will violate this EULA if you or other users using your online account do any of the following. You are not 16 years or older. Post, transmit, promote, or distribute content that violates any law or regulation. Harass, threaten, embarrass, or do anything else to any other user that is unwanted. Transmit or facilitate distribution of content that is harmful, abusive, racially or ethnically offensive, vulgar, sexually explicit, defamatory, infringing, invasive of personal privacy or publicity rights, or in a reasonable person's view, objectionable. Hate speech is not tolerated. Violate any rules communicated by Beni from time to time. Promote or encourage any illegal activity, including hacking. Disclose your own or other users' personal information. Impersonate any person or entity, including any Beni officials, forum leaders, guides, host, employees, or agents, or falsely state or otherwise misrepresent your affiliation with a person or entity. Impede or disrupt the game or normal flow of the game, or dialogue or vulgar language, abusiveness, use of excessive shouting, all caps, spamming, or any other disruptive or detrimental method in attempt to disturb other users. Cheat or utilize unauthorized exploits in connection with the game. Use or exploit any bugs, errors, or design flaws to obtain unauthorized access to the game or gain an unfair advantage over other players. Trade, sell, auction, or otherwise transfer any virtual items or goods to any nature outside of the game. Violate any applicable laws, including but not limited to copyright and trademark regulations and rules wherever you are using the game. This includes rules for use of third-party technology and content rules of interactive service providers, and federal, state, local, and foreign laws where applicable. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Do anything that interferes with the ability of others to enjoy the game in accordance with laws, or that materially increase the expense or difficulty for the need, or the service provider, third-party service provider, if applicable, in maintaining the game for the enjoyment of all users. Intentionally disconnecting from other than network during online play, or allowing yourself to be defeated by a given player repeatedly to help boost their rank or win. Oh no! 6. Limitations on damages. To the maximum extent permitted by applicable law, and no offence shall beneath its parents, subsidiary, suppliers, or licensors, or their respective directors, officers, employees, contractors, or agencies be liable for any special, incidental, indirect, exemplary, punitive, or consequential damages whatsoever arising out of the possession, use, or inability to use the game, or failure to provide support services, even if a party has been advised of the possibility of such damages. This limitation will apply regardless of their theory of liability, whether fraud, misrepresentation, or breach of contract, negligence, personal injury, product liability, intellectual property infringement, or any other theory. In any case, Benin and its license's entire liability under any provision of this game shall be limited to the amount actually paid by you for the game. 6.2. Benin and its licenses make no promise or warranty that the game will work properly. You acknowledge and agree that Benin and its licenses are not responsible or liable for 1. Any viruses or other disabling features that affect your access to or use of the game. 2. Any incompatibility between the game and other services, game and hardware. Or 3. Any delays or failures that you may experience in initiating contact, conducting or completing any transmissions or transactions in connection with the game in an accurate or timely manner. The game and all accompanying the game, Benin and its licenses and suppliers expressly disclaim all the warranties or conditions of any kind, express, implied, or statutory, including, without limiting, the implied warranties of the title, non-infringement, marketability, and fitness for a particular purpose. Benin does not ensure continuous error-free, secure, or virus-free operation of any online multiplayer or downloadable portion of the game, continued operation or availability of any given server. 6.3. Benin is not liable for any delay or failure to perform resulting from any causes from beyond our reasonable control. Further, Benin cannot and does not promise or ensure that you will be able to access the online multiplayer or downloadable portions of the game whenever you want, and there may be extended periods of time where you cannot access such portions of the game. 7. Termination, suspension of services. Benin retains the right and at its sole discretion to either terminate or suspend immediately your access to the game. If Benin terminates or suspends your account to the game, you will lose access to the game upon termination, and or for the duration of the suspension, and or lose the balance of any items, points, or character progress in the game. In the event that the game is terminated, you must destroy all copies of the game and all of its component parts. 8. Privacy. Benin respects your privacy rights and is committed to protecting your personal information. Any personal information supplied to you by Benin online or via Benin controlled websites will be subject to privacy policy posted at UCHTP Bandai Namco privacy policy. Notwithstanding what is stated in the privacy policy, if you use any online services such as online play or downloading and uploading content, Benin and its affiliates may also collect, use, store, transmit, and publicly display statistical data regarding gameplay, including scores, rankings, and achievements, or identify content that is created and shared by you with other players. 9. Injunction! Because Benin would it be irreparably damaged if the terms of this agreement were not specifically enforced. You agree that Benin and or its licenses shall be entitled, without bond, other security, or proof of damages, to appropriate equitable remedies with respect to breaches of this agreement, in addition to such other remedies as Benin may otherwise have under applicable laws. 10. Indemnity! You agree to indemnify, defend, and hold beneath its licenses and each of their respective partners, affiliates, contractors, officers, directors, employers, and agents harmless from all damages, losses, and expenses arising directly or indirectly from your acts and omissions to act using the game pursuant to the terms of this agreement. 11. Applicable law and jurisdiction. I didn't say it loud enough. Applicable law and jurisdiction. This agreement shall be terminated in accordance and governed by the laws of France. Any dispute arising in connection with this agreement which cannot be settled amicably after reasonable effort shall be submitted and taken to jurisdiction of the Commercial Court of the Honors. 12. Miscellaneous. If any provision of this agreement is held to be invalid or unenforceable, such provisions shall be struck and the remaining provisions shall be enforced. Beneath's failure to act with respect to a breach by you or others does not waive its right to act with respect to subsequent or similar breaches. You may not assign or transfer this agreement or your rights hereunder, and any attempt to do contrary is void. This agreement sets forth the entire understanding and agreement between the Beni and you with respect to the subject matter hereof. 13. Relationship to other terms of use. This EULA applies to all online service contents and games and products, and may be incorporated into additional game-specific terms of use. In the event that a conflict between this EULA and game-specific terms of this document, the EULA shall control, unless specifically stated otherwise in the game-specific terms of use. If you have any questions concerning this license, you may contact Beni through Beni Customer Service at Bandai Namco or Bandai Namco Entertainment Europe, 49-51, Rue des Stocks -Cus 90,618 -69,258, Lyon Cedex 0T9 France. Terms and conditions. Bandai Namco Entertainment Asia Petit Luttered Dark Souls End user license agreement EULA. Important. Read carefully. The end user license agreement EULA may be updated from time to time. Your continued use of this software after a revised version has been posted or communicated to you constitutes acceptance by you of its terms. The Bandai Namco Entertainment video game you are using, which includes computer game media and related documents in printed or electronic form, is licensed to you on the terms set forth below, which constitute a legal agreement between you and Bandai Namco Entertainment Asia Petit Luttered. Oh no, I haven't been shouting this. Sorry. The Bandai Namco Entertainment video game you are currently using, which includes computer game media and related documents in printed or electronic form, is licensed to you in the terms set forth below, which constitute a legal agreement between you and Bandai Namco Entertainment Asia Petit Luttered Beni Asia. By playing the video game either on your phone, console, or online, and or installing or otherwise using the game program, you agree to be legally bound by the terms of this service. By the terms of this agreement with Beni Asia. Dark Souls I game, including without limitation any multiplayer online or downloadable portions thereof. The game is protected by copyright laws of Singapore, international copyright treaties and conventions, and other laws. The game is licensed and is not sold, and this agreement confers no title or ownership of the game program or any copy thereof, in addition to terms and conditions hereof. When using particular portions of the game, including without limitation any multiplayer, online, or downloadable content, you may be subject to additional guidelines of third-party service providers. 1. Preconditions of the license. The grant of the license, as set forth in Section 2 below, is specifically conditions upon the following. A. You have accepted all of the terms in this EULA and any additional terms as may be applicable to the game you are playing, which is evidenced by your use of the game. You will comply with all the terms of this EULA until such time as you have completely and permanently terminated your use of the game by deleting all aspects of the game from your machine. You Your account deletion, deletion of all game-related files, destruction of the physical media on which the copy of the game is in your possession exists, etc. C. You will use the game only on a single home video game entertainment system, running validly licensed copies of the operating system on which the game was designed to operate, the hardware, and you will refrain from using. You will refrain from using any hacks, cracks, bots, or third-party game which may modify temporarily or permanently the code or any user experience of the game, whether on your local machine or servers which enable any use of any feature of the game. 2. Limited use license. Beneath Asia grants you non-exclusive, non-transferable, revocable limited right and is licensed to use one copy of the game solely for your personal use with the hardware. Commercial use of the game is prohibited to play the game and or access any online content related to the game. You must have legally obtained the game from Beneath Asia and all applicable or required hardware and or third-party game to operate the game and or access online, multiplayer, or download portions of the game which we do not provide. You are including internet service or other third-party charges required to access any multiplayer, online, or downloadable portions of the game, if applicable. Neither this agreement nor use of the game entitles you to any future releases of the game, nor to any future expansions, sequels, or similar ancillary products. Beneath Asia may on its sole discretion change, modify, suspend, or discontinue the game, or any aspect of the game at any time. Beneath Asia may impose limits on certain features or restrict your access to parts or all of the game without notice or liability. You have no interest, monetary or otherwise, in any feature or content contained in the game. You will understand that the game is provided by Beneath Asia at its discretion and may be terminated or otherwise discontinued by Beneath Asia at any time without notice. 3. Ownership! All intellectual property rights in and to the game, including but not limited to audio and other content incorporated therein or later downloaded and titled any and all copies thereof, are owned by Bung Asia or its licenses, and you receive no right or interest therein other than the limited license in Section 2 hereof. You may not do any of the following: copy the game except for a single backup copy, sell, rent, lease, license, distribute, or otherwise transfer or make the game available to any other person in whole or in part, or use the game or any part thereof in any commercial context, including but not limited to on a commercial website or in a service bureau, cyber cafe, commercial gaming center, or any other commercial location in which multiple users who have not each separately purchased the game may access the game program. Bung Asia may offer a separate site license agreement to permit you to make the game available for commercial use. See contact information below. Reverse engineer, derive source code, modify, decompile, disassemble, or create derivative works of the game or any online portion thereof, in whole or in part. Remove, disable, or circumvent any proprietary notices or labels contained on or within the game or any online portion thereof, or export or re-export the game or any copy adaptation in violation of any applicable Singapore export restrictions or any other laws or regulations. 4. Security measures, protections. Certain security measures may be required in order for you to make full use of the game, including without limitation, the requirement to register the game with the serial code, the requirement to have continual access to the internet, and or the acceptance of security digital rights management features. Failure to accept security measures may partially or completely impair your use of the game. 5. Online conduct. 5.1. Beneath Asia does not pre-screen content that may be posted and does not assume any responsibility or liability for content that is generated by users in connection with the game. Beneath Asia does not assume liability for any failure to remove or any delay in removing content. However, we reserve the right to remove or request that the third-party service provider content that is objectionable for us for any reason. This determination is in our sole discretion and is final. If Beneath Asia objects to content that you created, Beneath Asia may at its sole discretion either itself or applicable by request of third-party service providers. I. Remove content. I. Give warnings. I. Restrict your access when you break the rules. Or IV. Suspend or terminate your use without any notice to you. In addition, Beni Asia may, on its sole discretion, terminate this agreement, in part immediately and without notice, if your online conduct breaches this agreement or infringes any third-party intellectual property rights, or if we are unable to verify or authenticate any information you provide to us. If we terminate this agreement under these circumstances, you will lose access to any online portions of the game. 5.2. You agree that you will be personally responsible for your use of the game and for all of your communication and activity in connection with the game, including any content you contribute, and that you will indemnify and hold harmless Beni Asia, its licenses, and all of their respective parent affiliates and subsidiary companies, and the employees, officers, and directors from any liability or damages arising for your conduct in connection with the game. 5.3. Beni Asia retains the right to suspend your access to the game without previous notification if you violate the following terms of this EULA. You will violate this EULA if you or others using your online account do any of the following. You are not 18 years or older. Post, transmit, promote, or distribute content that violates any law or regulation. Harass, threaten, embarrass, or do anything else to any other user. Transmit or facilitate distribution of content that is harmful, abusive, racially or ethnically offensive, vulgar, sexually explicit, defamatory, infringing, invasive of personal privacy, or publicity rights, or in a reasonable person's view. Hate speech is not tolerated. Violate any rules communicated by Beni from time to time. Promote or encourage any illegal activity, including hacking. Disclose your own or other player or other users' personal information. Impersonate any personal entity, including Beni Asia officials, forum leaders, guides, hosts, employees, or agents, or falsely state otherwise, misrepresenting your affiliation with a personal entity. Impede or disrupt the game, or normal flow of the game, or dialogue, or use vulgar language, abusiveness, or use of excessive shouting, all caps, spamming, or any other disruptive or detrimental method in an attempt to disturb other users. Cheat or utilize unauthorized exploits in connection with the game. Use or exploit any bugs, errors, or design flaws to obtain unauthorized access to the game or gain an unfair advantage over other players. Trade, sell, auction, or otherwise transfer any virtual items or goods of any nature outside of the game. Violate any applicable laws, including but not limited to copyright and trademarks, regulations, and rules wherever you are using the game. This includes rules for use of third-party technology and consent of interactive services. Providers and state, local, and foreign laws where applicable. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Do anything which interferes with the ability of other users to enjoy playing the game in accordance with its rules, or that materially increase the expense or difficulty of Beni Asia or the third-party service provider, if applicable, of maintaining the game for the enjoyment of all its users. Intentionally disconnecting from the network during online play or allowing yourself to be defeated by a given player repeatedly to help boost their ranking or win counts. 6. User-generated content. In exchange for use of the game, and to the extent that your contributions through use of the game give rise to any copyright interest, you hereby grant Beni Asia an exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, royalty-free, fully transferable, and sub-licensable worldwide right and license to use your contributions in any way and for any purpose in connection with the game, and related goods and services, including the right to reproduce, copy, adapt, modify, perform, create derivative works from display, publish, broadcast, transmit, or otherwise use, distribute, exploit, and communicate to the public by any and all means and media, whether now known or hereafter devised, without any further notice or compensation of any kind to for the whole duration of the protection granted to intellectual property rights by applicable laws and international conventions. To the extent permitted by applicable law, you hereby waive any moral right of paternity, publication, reputation, or attribution with respect to B'nai Asia and other players' use of and enjoyment of such assets in connection with the game and related goods and services under applicable law. The license granted to B'nai Asia and the above waiver of any applicable moral rights survives any termination or revocation of this EULA. No! This is the last one. 7. Limitation damages to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law. In no event shall B'nai Asia, its parents, subsidiaries, suppliers, or licensors, or their respective directors, officers, employers, contractors, or agents be liable for any special, incidental, and direct, exemplary, punitive, or consequential damages whatsoever arising out of possession or use of inability to use the game, or the failure to provide support services, even if a party has been advised of the possibility of such damages. If this limitation will apply regardless of the theory of liability, whether fraud, misrepresentation, breach of conduct, negligence, personal injury, product liability, intellectual property right infringement, or any other theory, in any case, B'nai Asia and its licenses' entire liability under any provision of this agreement shall be limited to the amount actually paid for you by the game. 7.2. B'nai Asia and its licenses make no promise or guarantee that the game will work properly. You acknowledge and agree that B'nai Asia and its licenses are not responsible or liable for 1. Any viruses or other disabling features that affect your access or use of the game. 2. Any incompatibility between the use and any other services, games, hardware. Or 3. Any delays, failures or failures you may experience in initiating, conducting, or completing transmissions or transactions in connection with the game in an accurate or timely manner. The game and all other services are provided as is, except as described herein or in a limited warranty accompanying the game. B'nai Asia and its licenses and suppliers expressly disclaim all warranties or conditions of any kind expressly implied or statutory, including, without limitation, the implied warranties of title, non-infringement, merchantability, and fitness of a particular purpose. B'nai Asia does not ensure continuous, error-free, secure, or virus-free generation, or for a virus-free operation of any online, multiplayer, or downloadable portions of the game, or continued operation of or availability of any given server. B'nai Asia is not 7.3. B'nai Asia is not liable for any delay or failure to perform resulting from any causes from beyond our reasonable control. Further, B'nai Asia cannot and does not promise or ensure that you will be able to access the online multiplayer downloadable portions of the game whenever you want, and there may be extended periods of time where you cannot access such portions of the game. 8. Termination! Suspension of service! B'nai Asia retains the right at its sole discretion to either terminate or suspend your access to the game. If Bandai Namco terminates or suspends your access to the game, you will I lose access to the game upon termination and or for the duration of the suspension, and or I lose the balance of any items, points, or character points in the game. In the event the game is terminated, you must destroy all copies of the game and all of its component parts. 9. Privacy. Privacy. The B'nai Asia respects your privacy rights and is committed to protecting your personal information. Any personal information supplied to B'nai Asia online or via any B'nai Asia controlled websites will be subject to the privacy policy posted at Uchtpus. Finally, an Uchtpus instead of an Uchtpur. Uchtpus. BandaiNamco.com. Ow. Notwithstanding what is stated in privacy policy, if you use any online services such as online play or the downloading and uploading of content, B'nai Asia and its affiliates may also collect, use, store, transmit, and publicly display statistical data regarding your play, including scores, rankings, and achievements, or identity content that is created and shared by you with other players. 10. Injunction. Wait, 10. Injunction! Because B'nai would be irreparably damaged if the terms of this agreement were not specifically enforced, you agree that B'nai Asia and or its licenses shall be, without bond, other security or proof of damages, to appropriate equitable remedies with respect to breaches of this agreement. In addition to such other remedies as B'nai Asia may otherwise have under applicable laws. 11. Indemnity! You agree to indemnify or defend and hold B'nai Asia and its licenses and each of their respective partners, affiliates, contractors, officers, directors, employees, agents are harmless from all damages, losses, and expenses arising directly or indirectly from your acts and omissions to act using the game pursuant to the terms of this agreement. 12. Applicable law and jurisdiction. This agreement shall be interpreted in accordance with and governed by the laws of Singapore. 13. Miscellaneous. If any provision of this agreement is held to be invalid or unenforceable, such provisions shall be struck, and the remaining provisions shall be enforced. B'nai Asia's failure to act with respect to a breach by you or others does not waive its right to act with respect to subsequent similar breach. You may not assign or transfer this agreement or your right hereunder, and any attempt to the contrary is void. This agreement sets forth the entire understanding and agreement between B'nai Asia and you with respect to the subject matter hereof. 14. Relationship to other terms of use. Oh, I'm so almost finished. I'm almost there. This EULA applies to all online services, content, games, and products, and may be incorporated into game-specific terms of use. In the event that a conflict to this EULA and game-specific terms of use, this EULA shall control, unless specifically stated otherwise, in game-specific terms of use. If you have any questions concerning this license, you may contact B'nai Asia through B'nai Asia customer service at support@BandaiNamcoEnd.Asia or B'nai Asia 298 Tiong Bahru Road, Central Plaza, Noughts and Crosses Arena, 11-0T1/0T2, Singapore 168,730. I am finished! Alright, I think I got by the first level. I have completed the first bit of Dark Souls 3. Goodbye.